Hi folks, it's Chris here from Elemental Cartomancy. This is going to be a wee clip of me doing a talk at the Glasgow Witchy Bazaar. Now, you've probably heard me talking about the Glasgow Witchy Bazaar before. It's a market that I read tarot cards at. And I love it. It's a great atmosphere. It's a fantastic market. It's run by a person called Jo. She's absolutely lovely. She does a really good job. There's lots of amazing, business owners, witchy business owners and readers and all sorts that are there and that are part of it. And it runs roughly every 8 weeks. And there's always it's called Coven Corner. They do usually 2 talks in the 4-hour market. And it was yesterday on Sunday the 26th of October, I was asked to do one of the talks, and I did it on tarot reading. So I recorded it. Now, the sound isn't the best. I've tried to use like the tools that are available to me to kind of dull down the crowd noise and make my own audio better, but it is not the absolute best. I've also had to kind of mess about with the image, so is that because in the original video I'm just like in a small corner of it. Because of where my phone was recording it. But anyway, we make do with what we've got. I hope that you enjoy this. This is a wee bit different. And yeah, it's a talk on the beginner level tarot reading, essentially. So have a watch, enjoy, let me know what you think, give me a wee like, leave me a comment, let me know what your thoughts are. If anyone wants the handout that you see me giving to people is basically just a key for what the numbers all mean, like my numerology essentially, and what the elements are. So numbers and elements and what each means. And obviously part of my talk is kind of explaining all that and explaining how you kind of read them individually and then read them together. So enjoy, thank you for watching, leave me a like and a comment, and yeah, I'll see you next time.
I'm going to talk to you a wee bit about tarot reading, okay? So when I first started reading tarot cards, I was 8 years old, or thereabouts, and it was just 78 cards of images, which was quite overwhelming. And I don't know if anyone else can relate to that, if anyone works with cards or has kind of dabbled and can relate to that feeling of, oh gosh, like, how am I going to get to know all of these cards? There you go. So yeah, that's what I don't think it needs to be that complex. I think we can actually really simplify it, break it down and make it really approachable. And that's kind of the idea of what I want to talk to you about. So, we can basically break it down into simple layered steps, rather than thinking about it as a deck of 78 all unrelated images. If we look at how the different parts of the deck relate to each other, then we can make it a lot easier for ourselves. At least make it much easier to get into it, to start off. So I'm going to talk to you about might or might not know, the tarot's broken down into the major and the minor arcana. And the minor arcana kind of relates to playing cards. Okay? You might recognise it's got 4 suits, it's got an ace through 10, and then it's got 4 cards. We're going to talk about the ace through 10 of each of the suits. So really what we're going to talk about is 40 out of the 78 cards. So we're going to discuss about half the deck. So the idea is you'll go away today with an idea of how to start approaching those 40 cards. And maybe if you enjoy this, then maybe I'll be doing another one of these, or maybe I'll decide not to because it was too nerve-wracking and once was that. Who knows? So we start with the numbers, okay? So let me just pick up both principles, right? So we can break down each of the numbers. We can look at the numbers and say, right, what does that number mean in and of itself? So we have our aces or ones. Aces are all about new beginnings, new potential energy, new things are happening around about us when we see an ace card. And we're not talking about the suits or the elements yet, we're simply looking at what the number means. Now, what I would say is, if you look up a guy called Vincent Katishi, or you've seen him on YouTube, you've seen him online, he actually sadly passed away, I think it was last year, but he was a very accomplished tarot reader. He'd been making tarot since the 60s, professionally since the 90s. So very, very kind of a new stuff that was very much very high up there in the tarot reading world. He did not read the elements. He purely looked at when it came to the minors, he looked at the numbers. So to me, to him, an ace was an ace was an ace. It didn't matter whether it was ace of pentacles or the ace of swords. The only point I'm trying to make here is that you can absolutely be an amazing tarot reader just by looking at the numbers alone. Okay? So, aces and new beginnings. When we get to the two, we start thinking about duality. We start thinking about, we're building up ideas, we're practicing the things. So the ace was the new start, the new potential energy coming into our lives. The two is where we start playing with that, we start practicing, we start building up our, our savvy in that particular area, whatever it is that we're doing. Okay. You think about it as a creative process. I suppose the two is kind of the ace is the spark of creation. The two is kind of like the pregnancy where the thing builds up. Do you know what I mean? The thing is kind of a building and building, not pregnancy and generation. And then if the two is the pregnancy, threes are creation, creativity, creative energy. So the three is like when the physical thing becomes real. So in the three we start making things real. Okay, we start whatever it is that we're doing, whatever we're applying ourselves to, we start taking steps to put ourselves out there. We then come to the fours. So fours, for me, are all about stability. It's about bringing structure to things. It's about making things stable. So in the three, we're maybe just kind of putting ourselves out there and trying all sorts of different things and just hoping that something sticks. With the four, we start to think in a more structured way. We start to bring structure to things. Four's linked to the major arcana. Four's linked to the emperor. The emperor's like the overall businessman overseeing the system to make sure everything's working properly. So fours are about stability. Then we go to the fives. Fives are instability. They're changes, they're difficulties, they're the challenges that we go through. Okay. But what's life without a few challenges? What's the expression? Nothing worth doing is ever easy. So fives is an important part of the process. So when you look at the tarot, the fives are usually all quite difficult cards. So yeah, the fives are usually where we see shit start to hit the fan. Okay, to use the expression. But thankfully, we have the sixes. So sixes are basically bringing a bit of harmony back into things. Okay, so after the difficulties of the five, things start to balance themselves out. Things get a bit better than the six. Okay, and that's why when we look at sixes, like for example here, we see the finances, the money, the resources start to be redistributed a wee bit. And the six of wands, for example, which is what I've got sitting there, we see someone doing a victory march as a success. Okay, so sixes are a really good number, speaking. But it doesn't stop there, because then we've got the seven. Sevens are okay. We've dealt with some challenges and we've come out the other side of it and we've almost picked it back up after that. It can be really tempting to just stay put and think, right, okay, I'm not going to do anything that's going to F things up, basically. That's me, I've found the success, I'm going to stay there. But the seven comes along to tell you, no, that's not really the name of the game. You might see a bit of a pattern here where we get a bit of a moment and then everything kind of goes up in the air again. So the seven is basically, so think about, if threes are about growth and fours are about stability, then sevens are almost like that 3 plus 4, so it's like growth from stability. With sevens we start to think outside the box, we start to go outside our comfort zone, and it's like we we deal with difficulties and changes and challenges, but we deal with it in a much more, we've been through a lot and we've got a lot more knowledge and savvy under our belt. So that's the 7. The 7 is kind of a growth from stability. And then we have the 8. So 4 plus 3 was growth from stability, and I think, okay, well, 4 plus 4, things are really, really stable then, yeah? Yeah, absolutely, fair enough. But from that stable place, we really start to progress. We kick off. It's like, think about swimming, a really stable backboard pushes you forward further. And that's why when you look at the 8s in the tarot, we actually see a lot of momentum, a lot of movement. So, yeah, the 8s are when we really start to build up our mastery, we build up our skill. And the 9s, so we're almost at the completion, and this is the 9s is where we start. The 9s is where we start to kind of we're getting towards the end of the journey, and we're taking the final steps to finish things up. The 9s can be a really intense energy. If you look at the 9s across the tarot, there's some really intense cards. There's some really nice ones. So our lady here's in our garden. She's living the life of luxury. She's really enjoying all the things that she's worked hard for. But if you were to look, for example, at the 9 of Wands, maybe at the 9 of Swords, then you see someone who's maybe going through a wee bit more of a difficult time. So the 9s is where the energy really intensifies, and it's kind of up to you to take that intense energy and direct that in a way that best serves you. Okay, so that's 9s, and then 10s is the final step, it's the completion. It's kind of like the renewal of the cycle as well, because 10 is like 1 and 0, so we're almost back to that 1, back to that ace. So it's the final bit, but it's up the renewal of the cycle and kind of a starting anew again. Now, it doesn't mean, for example, in our 10 of Pentacles that, right, okay, we've worked hard to build up this life for ourselves, this sustenance, this financial security. It's not like, right, I'm giving all that up now and I'm going to start anew. What we actually see here is someone, so the kind of an older guy, he's built up his financial success, and he's actually creating that environment where his family can thrive now. So it's like a kind of a passing down, a passing on of the torch sometimes, rather than an actual complete new beginning for that person. Okay, so hopefully that kind of makes a wee bit of sense. So that's a very quick run through of our ace through 10. I wanted to look at some examples, and if anyone wants to join in or maybe tell me what your thoughts are on the examples that I put up, then raise your hand or shout at me. So here I've got a 2, a 3 and a 6. Now when I do a 3-card spread, it's usually like a very simple, this is the situation or the basis, this is the advice that the tarot's given you, and this is the outcome, the future, the outcome, where things are going. So we've got a 2, a 3 and a 6, so not even thinking about the fact that the Wands, maybe somebody said to you, I'm starting a new project, have you got any advice for me? Any advice for me that will help me get things going along? And we get a 2, a 3 and a 6. Does anybody want to hazard a guess as to what, just thinking about the numbers, what that might be saying?
I always think it's being like growth.
Absolutely, yeah. So because the numbers are on the increase, it's about growth, things are going up 100%. Thank you. Okay, so we're thinking about timescales. If you use the tarot and you're comfortable using the tarot to read for lines and timings of things, then absolutely. What I would see when I look at these is, so the situation is a 2, So this tells me that the person is currently practicing, they're currently building up, building up their knowledge. They're trying to gain the knowledge, they're trying to kind of do everything that they need to do to prepare, rather than actually doing the thing. They're in that preparation and practice stage, right? That's what the 2 would mean in the situation. But look at what the advice card is to them. It's a 3. So actually, you're practicing and practicing, you're preparing and you're preparing. Tarot's telling you just bloody well do the thing. Just get it done. Stop over preparing. Stop getting into analysis paralysis. Just do the thing and just throw yourself out there. It might be that you need to maybe there's a bit of a fear of things will go wrong, but there's always going to be challenges. Some things are always going to go wrong. Nothing's ever 100% perfect. You just need to put yourself out there, That's what the 3s would say to me at that position. And then if you do that, you've got the 6. So you've got that a bit of promise of success there coming out at the end. If you can give up that analysis paralysis, stop preparing and actually do the thing, then you're promising success. Does that make sense? Interestingly enough, right, before I move on, look at what happens if I switch these 2 around. Look at what happens if I can actually get them in the card holders and switch these 2 things around. But what if the 3 is the situation and the 2 is the advice? Anybody have any ideas about how that might influence the reading? Keep planning. Yeah. It's like you've not even got a plan in mind here, mate. Do you know what I mean? You're trying to do this thing. You're throwing spaghetti at the wall, just hoping that something will stick. You need to stop. You need to take a step back. You need to make an actual plan. You need to plan your success. Don't just expect that the universe is going to have your back. You need to put in some work here. Plan the thing out and then take the action. There needs to be a wee bit more thought and consideration behind it. If you can do that, then sure, then you're guaranteed the success. Did you see how a subtle difference in the cards are can make a big difference to the advice that you're given in the reading? So, what else do you think? So what this lady said, sorry, what was her name? Candice. So what Candice has said is that, notice how when I switched them round, we went from a 3, then we went back down to a 2, and then we're up again to a 6. So it's about, it almost looks as a bit of a regression there. There's a bit of a pause and a step back. So looking at how the sequence of the numbers, which I think is what you were saying about the first reading. The first reading, it was like everything was up and up and up. Whereas when you change the numbers round and switch them up a bit, it's like 3 back to 2, then forward to 6. I think that was roughly what you were saying. About the pace of things. Yeah. Okay. Great, right, so that's 2, 3 and 6. What if we change things up just this much? I should probably wait for time actually, maybe for time. Maybe I shouldn't do another number 1 then. Let's move on to the elements and talk quickly about what the elements mean. Okay, so we've got 4 elements, so there's not as many numbers, not as many elements as numbers. Our elements are wands, which links to the element of fire. Now fire is our passions, it's the things that spark that fire in our belly, it's the things that we're passionate about, the things that stimulate us, and the things that almost give our life purpose, right? So lots of people will look at their career as their kind of a fire in their life. That's the thing that, do you know what, see when people are telling stories about me after I'm gone, I want to say, this is what that person did, this was the contribution they made. That is fire, okay? So passion and the things, the areas of our life where we're engaging and we're taking action. Swords, sort of air. is the mental suit. Okay, so swords is the intellect. It's our thoughts, our words, how we communicate, how we understand the world around about us. Now, what you'll notice, particularly if you read through that like a Rider-Waite-Smith type deck, which is what I've got here, if you look through the swords, it looks like the real shit suit, right? There's quite a lot of different cards in the swords. So sometimes the swords will talk to us about the difficult stuff in life. Okay? Cups is our water suit. It's the suit of our emotions, our emotional connections, how we connect to other people. So swords is the rational mind that understands things, that penetrate things, that's the intellect. Then cups is like our more emotional, irrational mind, you know. It's how we connect to other people. It doesn't always behave in the way that we expect, just as our emotions. And then finally we've got Pentacles, which is bringing everything together in the material world. So right away, if I pull a 10-card Celtic cross and I've got all wands, swords and cups, that's telling me, you know what, your head is in the clouds. You're doing all of this stuff, but it's all in your head. You're not making anything real. You're not actually applying yourself to the real world. Right now, it's important to have a plan, of course, but if you want to have an impact, we need to kind of make the thing real. So Pentacles is things like our finances, our money. It's the things that bring our life, keeps us grounded, our feet on the ground, and gives us security in our everyday life. So you're looking at money, of course, but you're also looking at the roof over your head, you're looking at your food and your drink, all of these things that we do to make ourselves feel safe and secure. Okay? That is Earth and Pentacles. So again, I'll do a very quick example. Okay, so someone comes to you and says, you know, new relationship. I'm just started this new relationship. What can you tell me about it? And what if we get so what if we get the swords, the cups cards, I forget to say, the swords, the cups and the pentacles, see. So we've got the element of air is the situation, the element of water is the advice, and the element of earth is the outcome. Does anybody have any ideas about what that might be saying to the person? Okay, so new beginnings and sit tight. So you're looking at the numbers, which is great. So the idea is that we're going to go forward and be able to put the numbers and the elements together. From now I'm just looking at the elements, right? So when I look at this element of swords, I'm thinking, right, this person's overly rationalised in the relationship. They're trying to make everything make sense. You know, they're very much in their head about it. The advice for them is it's a relationship. You're trying to connect to someone else. So stop being overly rational about it. Just be in the moment. Just feel it. Feel it, don't like it. That type of thing. Do you know what I mean? And if you could do that, then we get Pentacles. It's going to really kind of solidify itself. It's going to become something that's dependable, that's secure. It's kind of maybe how I would look at that. What happens if I begin? I switch them around. If I've got cups first, and then the advice is the swords cards, and then that might be saying like your head is, you know, you're too in your emotions about this. You're actually not seeing the situation for what it is. You need to take a look. What did you say? Yeah, put on the brakes. Take a long hard look at this with your thinking head, and maybe not with your feeling head on. Okay, and maybe it's that there's something going on that the person's not seeing. But yeah. Again, subtle changes in how we've laid out the spread can make a big difference. So I think I've well and truly used up more of your lovely time than I was allowed to. But the last thing I actually want to say to you is, I've told you what the numbers and the elements mean to me. You could go away and think, do you know what, I'm just talking shit here. The swords don't mean thoughts at all. The swords to me mean difficulties and conflicts and the really difficult things in life that I have to deal with. And of course, the swords are weapons, right? Think about what the tool of a sword is. It's a weapon that's used to hurt someone. So that's totally valid, and that's maybe why when I was saying we see a lot of the more difficult parts in the sword suit, that's potentially why we see that. So you go away and you think, right, what do each of these numbers and elements mean to me? Okay, come up with your own, what they mean to you, and then you'll find that your readings will flow a lot better, a lot more easily. Once you know what your deck is saying to you, that's when you can make a true success of it. Okay, so use, if anyone's not got one, then let me know and I'll give you a wee sheet. But use that as a kind of a guide to start you off, but scribble on it and just cross things out and come up with your own system. Okay. Was there anything else I wanted to say? We didn't quite get to the point where we put the numbers and the elements together, which next logical step. Once you know what the numbers mean and the elements mean separate to each other, then we start to think, right, okay, well, 2 in the suit of cups. So 2, we're building things up, we're gathering things, we're kind of building the system up, and cups is the emotional relationships type suit. So 2 in the 2 of cups, we see right there. It's going to be first thing. We get to know each other, they're having those kind of it's the honeymoon period, they're getting to know each other, they're having big long talks and stuff. Maybe they're having arguments as well, because arguments is how we get to know people, you know, we get to see how my morals and values measure up against yours. But that's how we kind of, that's putting them together. So have a think about what everything means to you, then practice at putting them together. And there you go, that's 40 cards that you're able to read right off the bat, just using that, kind of breaking it down and making things easier for yourself. Right, thank you so much for all your lovely time, I really appreciate it, you're all absolute glorious. And yeah, thank you.